there was no surprises. And so I don't think a lot of people build a strong enough foundation of genuinely being interested, genuinely being intentional in their relationship, investing in one another.
Welcome back to the Love Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Charlene Byars. I am thrilled to welcome my next guest to the show today, a marriage mentor dedicated to ending the belief that marriage is hard. Through his work, he helps couples build above average marriages. With real life experience and practical wisdom, John shares his lessons he's learned to help couples create deeper connection, better communication, and a lasting partnership. I can't wait for you to hear John's story and how him and his wife have such a great marriage and how they help couples and encourage couples to do the same. Oh, it was so good. And remember, stick around for the tip of the week at the end of the show. Welcome to Love Stories, a relationship podcast for successful women, where we talk about love, dating, relationships, and how great love stories are made. I'm Charlene Byars, and I'm so excited to share all the things that you can apply to create a beautiful love story of your own. Cheers to great love. Well, hello, Trone. Oh my goodness. Thank
Hello, how you
you.
doing?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. I've been really excited to have this conversation with you, and I'm just so happy you're here. And I just want to say thank you for being on this podcast today. Really, seriously, thank you for being here.
Truly glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Okay. So I was thinking, like, how did I want to start this conversation today? Because I have so many questions for you, and I really want to, do a deep dive here today.
Okay.
But I know that, you are a relationship coach. I know you help people, and when it comes to their relationship, and I know that you also work with your wife, and you guys, do things together, and you have a podcast. And one of the things that really strike me, and I think it's just so awesome, is that you're not just helping people have, regular relationships. You're actually helping people have what would you say?
Above average marriages.
Above average marriage. Let's start there. Talk to me about that, where that came from and how did that come about?
Well, it came from the idea of wanting to help people not have to deal with the common struggles that most people deal with when it comes to being in meaningful marriages. Like so many people, they end up either divorced or in situations in their marriages to where they struggle with communications. They struggle to have hard conversations when it comes to be it intimacy or finances or, childhood trauma or struggles or whatever the case may be. And there's so many different areas where it might be differences in their career progressions or what they want to do in their life ultimately. And there's such common issues that the average couple typically tends to deal with. And our whole premise around it is creating content and coaching around helping people overcome those common issues to where they can have that above average marriage. They say the average, couple struggles that first, 1 to 3 years or 1 to 7 years, in the honeymoon phase, so to say. And we just don't agree with that idea, that marriage is hard, that the honeymoon stage or phase or whatever the case may be has to end or none of that. Like we genuinely just do not agree. And so our whole premise is just helping people have those above average marriages by being more intentional and building literally the relationship and the marriage of your dreams by just learning what it means to be more intentional and focused on building your marriage and your relationship into something that you genuinely love and desire to be in and want to do long term. So that's more so of the premise of our content.
No, oh, I love this. Oh, that is so awesome because unfortunately, and I think I'm just going to speak, somewhat for the majority of the people. I've noticed that people, again, the majority of us, we don't understand the gift and the beauty of marriage and the friendship of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And when I talk to couples, and especially couples that, yes, maybe they've, been married for a short term, but also marriages that have been together for a long time.
Right.
Um, they really don't understand that just because you've been married for a long time, that's great. I always tell people, okay, that's great. Someone will say to me, well, we've been married for 20 years, 25 years, all the things. And one of the first questions I truly, genuinely ask them, are you happy?
Hmm.
How's the marriage? And it's almost sometimes kind of like a deer in a headlight.
Yeah.
It's like, because I think the perception is that a lot of people think that marriage should be hard, or, marriage is just kind of a grind, or they think, the longer you've been with that person that it's just whatever. You don't really put the effort into that. And I can notice that there are so many people that are in, and I'm not speaking for everyone. I know there's people that have amazing marriages,
Of course.
but for a lot of people, they struggle in the sense of like, what does that even mean to have a great marriage? What does that
Hmm.
even mean to have above average marriage? And I think what I've noticed, and I know that you guys, this is the work that you're doing, and you guys work, a lot with couples, and you really talk about marriage. What do you think is, as you just said earlier, about communication, there's just different parts here. Why do you think, for the most part, when we get married, we just kind of just stop putting the effort in the marriage?
I think a lot of it comes before the marriage. I think sometimes people they end up in marriages genuinely based off of a desire for companionship. Like I think so many people just want to be wanted and want to be loved that they will look past certain things and they won't spend enough time building a strong enough foundation to have a truly meaningful marriage. And the reason why I say this is because I think about like my wife and I when we got married,
Okay.
we were so interested in each other. Like she knew every single thing about me before we got married. She knew all of my childhood struggles. She knew about my family. She knew every dirty and dark secret about me. She knew about my past. She knew about all of these things and she loved me through it. She knew my friends. She knew all of these things. So she wasn't going to get married to me and then end up meeting a new person. She knew all of that. And she learned, well, she developed love for me through all of those stages. And so by the time we got married, we had a solid foundation and there was no surprises. And so I don't think a
Oh.
lot of people build a strong enough foundation of genuinely being interested, genuinely being intentional in their relationship, investing in one another. I was so committed and invested in my wife. And it got to a point when we were just friends that no matter if we made it through it or not, I wanted to see her become the best version of her. And she wanted the same for me. No matter where our friendship or our relationship went, we genuinely just wanted the best for each other. And I think a lot of people, they get married and they don't have stuff like that established. Like she was my favorite person in the world before we got married. So it made it so easy transitioning into that because we were already best friends. And so she knew what I was interested in, what my hobbies were, what I liked. I knew the same thing about her. And the interesting thing is we were polar opposites. We were like my wife and I had
Really?
nothing in common at all. Like not even a little bit. But the thing about it was we were so interested in each other that it made us more curious about each other. Like we wanted to see how we thought, how we saw the world, what it was like for her growing up in a two-parent household versus me being from the hood, the youngest of six kids, and siblings. I had six siblings. I was the youngest of all of them, a single mom. We had two totally different views of the world, but we were so interested in just getting to know each other and understand each other rather than looking for the areas where we weren't compatible. We just wanted to understand, but that's what our friendship was based on, just being honest. And so I never had to put on this, like a lot of people do when they're dating, they put on their best character and all this
Yeah, their
other stuff.
facade. Yeah.
Yeah, they put on all of that. I never
Mhm.
did that with her. We never did that for each other. So she got the real rawest version of me and she grew to love that over the time that we were friends into dating into being married. And so we knew everything. So there was no surprises. So all we had at that point was the life that we wanted to build together by the time we got married. And we just had to learn how to go about that.
That is so important that you're starting out with friendship.
Hmm.
That is so important because when it comes to marriage, and I believe this with all my heart, if you don't have from the beginning a solid friendship, if you don't have, that you actually want to hang out with that person, get to know that person, interested in that person, that can honestly lead you to a road that is really hard. That's a
Yeah.
really hard road because once if that's not present, if that's not present in a marriage, and again, like you said, I love that you said even before you got married,
Hmm.
she was your best friend. She was your favorite person, the person that you were most interested in, and the person that you wanted to get to know, the most. How important is that? Why do you think we don't understand that? Where do we get confused when it comes to how important a friendship first is in a marriage?
I think that friendship, for one, to be direct, is everything.
Yes.
It is everything. And I say that because when you genuinely have a deep, meaningful friendship and connection with somebody, for one, I don't use the word friend lightly at all. Like, I have, associates, and I have, when somebody comes into that role of being a friend, there's obligations and expectations and things there. I got people in my life that I look at like family, but family change. They sometimes they're cool, sometimes they not. But we done been through so much to where we're still close. But you know what I mean? It can get kind of weird that, but you have a connection that just can't be broken easily. But with friendships, you can lose friendships very easily because there's such an expectation there of who that person is in your life and how you want them to operate in your life. So my wife being my best friend at the time, like, again, she got to see all of these different sides of me. Like, when I needed somebody, she was there for me. When she needed somebody, I was there for her. And it was so important because what happens with a lot of people is they start having these agendas behind why they want to be friends, but they don't understand or know or consciously that they're still performing. I'm still trying to make you see me a certain way. I'm still hiding my insecurities, my doubts, my fears. My wife knew all of that stuff. When she was my friend, she knew all of that stuff.
Wow.
She knew the stuff, that you typically wouldn't tell most people. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
I
yes.
had no reason to pretend in front of her. So, I mean, it friendship is so important because you know how a lot of men specifically struggle
Okay.
with vulnerability and trust and things like that. But the reason why you have that is because you've been pretending and putting on this facade of being strong, and I gotta be the provider. I gotta look this way. You can't never see me emotional. You can't never see none of this stuff because you're not being your full self. And so that friendship allows you to bring all of those walls down, be all of who you are, and then create the opportunity for that person to see if they like all of who you are without an agenda. And for some people, that's either going to push them away or bring them in closer to you. And so it's a risk for sure, but it's one that's worth taking because when somebody loves you for all of who you are in that friendship, it's literally unbreakable.
Oh, you just gave me chills. You just gave me chills. You gave me some goosies here because I just love that you're starting with this.
Hmm.
I really do believe, you guys, listen, seriously. I really do believe that with all my heart. And it was interesting too. This is, wow, this is for sure the message. Just a few days ago, my husband and I, we were at a Valentine's kind of special at our church. And
Okay.
the pastor, they kind of said, okay, it's, for Valentine's, for marriage, a real romance. They called it real romance. So we went to the church, and we didn't really know what to expect. We didn't really know what he was going to talk about. He said he's going to talk about all the things and the importance of marriage.
Hmm.
the first thing, and I'm not even kidding you, for like the first 45 minutes or less or something like that, where do you think he started?
I'm gonna guess and
Just
say friendship.
friendship. He said it is, and he even said also, friendship, even in a Christian marriage, the value, and we don't talk about how that will get you through when things are hard. Because when you are
Hmm.
truly friends, and life and in life happens, right? Life can be hard. Life is hard sometimes. And when you
Absolutely.
have that friendship and you have that person that you can honestly count on, and
Hmm.
you can honestly be your most vulnerable self, it really does change everything. Well, let me ask
Absolutely
you this.
everything.
It changes there. Okay, let me ask you this. Okay. So tell me a little bit about, because this is already wow. Tell me a little bit about how you grew up, and when you were growing up as, a young man.
Hmm.
What were you seeing in the world when it came to marriage? Like, did you see any healthy marriage, not healthy marriage? Did you have a good role model, not a good role model? Where did you start learning this? Or was this something that was just coming to you naturally?
So this always kind of trips people out when I tell them this. Is like I didn't come from anything like what I have now with my marriage. Like I grew up around a lot of addiction. I grew up around, I was from the hood, literally,
Yeah.
like growing up in the projects. Like I don't even know if I can remember. I think I had maybe one or two friends in my childhood who I think had both their parents. Um, but it wasn't many. Most of the people who I knew growing up was in single parent households, or their mom had multiple baby dads, or their dads were street famous,
Mhm,
from doing whatever they were doing. But I never
mhm,
saw an example of a happy, healthy marriage that I admired. Not to say
mhm.
I didn't see marriage, but I never saw anything like what I wanted to have. Granted, as a child, you don't even know what you want to have.
No, you don't.
You know what I
You
mean?
don't.
And
Yeah.
so at 12 years old, and I know this is gonna sound weird, but I
I wanna
always
hear.
knew I wanted to be married. I've always known, like I wanted to have a wife. I wanted to have somebody I could love. And the thing about it is, even though I didn't see it, I knew exactly what I didn't want. And the fact that I didn't have a present father, and that I didn't see happy relationships and things like that growing up, it showed me everything that I didn't want to be, and I did everything that I could be to be the exact opposite of all of that stuff. And that really kind of allowed me to go into my marriage, into my relationship with my wife, open minded, because I didn't have some programming that I needed to unlearn or try to learn or like recreate and make my own. So we tell people all the time, like, we built our marriage from scratch. We didn't take a whole lot of people's advice and insights. There was people telling us that we shouldn't get married, that we should, that we, were too young, and that you don't do that in the military, like you shouldn't get married in the military. So all of this crap. So I've only ever heard mostly negative things pertaining to marriage. But I never let that dictate my outlook on marriage and what I wanted. And even though I didn't see it growing up, and I grew up, around a lot of different types of abuse and, just in rough conditions, it didn't stray me away from wanting what I wanted. I just had to become the person who could be able to have what I wanted, and who had the drive and the willingness to work for it and to build that up, with my wife. And so it just took some intentional effort, some time, some care, and we let the process work itself out.
Wow. No, that is really powerful, from, coming from, like you said, someone that actually never really had, because I do believe this, for the most part, I do believe that we grow up in whatever environment that we grow up in. Obviously, that plays a big role in what we think of marriage,
Hmm.
what we think of relationships, what we see, what we don't see. And often, people, that's all they know. That's all they
Hmm.
know. And so, they kind of mirror what they seen, growing up. Or every once in a while, I hear someone say, just like you, which I think is so powerful. And it's not the norm, Trump. It's not the norm that they're like, you know what? Even though I didn't have that type of role model, even though I didn't have that healthy, look on marriages, it actually helped me in the sense that I knew that I wanted to do the opposite,
Hmm.
the absolute opposite. And that is powerful because if you already knew from a young age that you wanted to get married and you already knew that you wanted to have a great friendship, what happens then in, let's just generalize this for a moment. Let's just generalize
Okay.
this for a moment. Give me a perspective overall, with the work you're doing, what happens, with men overall? Because I talk to men and they talk about, obviously they want to get married and they're putting a lot of effort in the beginning. They're putting a lot of effort. They're dating their woman. They're doing all the things. They're doing all the things. And I feel like once they get married, and I would say this too for women too, but once they get married, it's almost like the finish line. They're like, okay, we're married. Now that's it.
Hmm.
What's going on here? Well, why don't people understand the importance of putting the effort in and continue on going? What are you noticing with the work you guys are doing?
Here's what I have learned and noticed, and even kind of observed, in myself. A lot of people, and this actually goes back to what we said earlier before, like they don't have that close, deep, meaningful connection and friendship with their spouse.
Okay.
A lot of guys, they look at their spouse as being just their wife or whatever the case may be, and not somebody that they genuinely enjoy life with. Me, for example, like there's no activity that I can think of off the top of my head that I would enjoy more with anybody else other than my wife. Like everybody else is gonna be at best a close second. You know what I mean? And so I actually enjoy her as a person. Like I enjoy the things that we get to do, and like outside of just the intimate stuff, like I enjoy having fun, be it going out, hiking, walking, like all of those things, like there's enjoyment there. And so a lot of guys, unfortunately, they're looking for companionship. They're looking for somebody, who can care for them. Maybe not like their mother did, but they're looking for that love. Because a lot of guys, like they want love, they
Hmm.
want companionship. They want
Yes.
somebody to be there for them, but they're not as aware of the other side of that comes with, the emotional availability, being able to have fun, understanding the importance of still pursuing your wife. So they look at it very one dimensionally. They look at it as like, I'm looking for somebody to fulfill a role rather than I'm looking for somebody who I can be all of this with and build this life with. And so it kind of goes to another point of like not having a clear vision for yourself and for your life together. Because for me, one of my biggest values in myself and in my marriage has always been growth. I want to
Okay.
continue to become the best, highest, version of myself possible. I'm in pursuit of my potential. And the thing about my wife is she makes me want to grow and to be better in all of these things in every area. And that don't just mean professionally and making money and stuff like that, but in my character. She makes me want to be a better person from the inside out. She makes me want to carry myself a certain way in the world because of her influence on me and who she is. But it's because we built that connection. And I don't look at her as just my wife. I also look at her as a person that I get to do life with, who has her own thoughts, her own beliefs, her own passions that I want to contribute to because she's given so much to me. And because she's my friend and my wife, I want to contribute to her happiness. I want to contribute to the things that bring her joy. I want to do all of those things, which is why if you don't build that foundation up around that connectedness, that shared interest, around wanting to do things, enjoying each other's company. Even like if we're not doing nothing, I'd rather be doing nothing with her. You know what I'm saying? Like if we
Oh,
not
that's good.
like we can be doing nothing at all, and we'd be sitting on the couch and she'll just put her feet on me. We'll just look over at each other every now and again or whatever, smile, laugh, sharing reels or TikToks or whatever. Like but and it just be a great time. But it's because we have that. Like we've developed a strong, shared, similar sense of humor, shared interest. So we're so involved and invested in each other's world that it's easy for us to do life together. And a lot of guys, again, they get into this role of just being one thing rather than I want to be my wife's best friend. I want to be the person she can have the most fun with. I want to spoil her. I want to romance her. I want to love on her better than anybody ever could. Like I want to do all of these things, not just because I'm trying to fulfill a role in her life, but because she also pours into me in a way that makes me want to do that. So there's another side of that as well. Her contribution to me and who she's been in my life, her standards, her value also impacts how I show up for her.
Yes.
She set a standard for what she will and will not tolerate, of what's acceptable behavior and what's not. So I also have had the opportunity to learn off of that as well, because it's not one sided. But a lot of
No.
guys, again, they're just looking for somebody, to just fill a role. Like I want somebody who can cook, clean, be there, love on me, and all of this other stuff. But they don't want to be that best friend, that husband, that person that cares for them deeply, that supportive person that pours into them. All of those other things that come into serving and giving to your wife, because
Yes.
that is the biggest part of marriage, being joyfully excited about having somebody in your life that you get to serve, that you get to care for. And a lot of men just don't have that perspective.
Oh man, you're gonna drive some people wild right now. This is good. This is really good. This is so beautiful because what you're talking about right now is what I also truly believe with all my heart. And honestly, this is why I'm doing this podcast. I created this podcast seriously
Hmm.
to have these conversations to realize that great love is available.
It is.
And great love is what we all, if we are going to go ahead and get in a marriage and a covenant for the rest of our lives, how to understand that the most important thing that you can do when you're married is pour into each other. Be
Hmm.
interested in one another. Like it doesn't have to be hard. Do you know I said this before? I tell people, I said, you know what? I said marriage, actually, let me just say this like straight up. Like I said earlier, life is hard. Life is hard. But marriage should be easy.
Marriage
Easy.
makes life easier
Marriage makes
when
life
you do
easier.
it
Oh,
right.
talk about that.
Marriage
Talk
makes
about
life
that.
easier.
Talk about that.
And of course, I can only speak from my perspective, but
Yes.
man, my wife, man, she's my protection. Like she's my safe space. She's, she contributes to my joy and my happiness and my excitement for life. Like she's one of my strongest whys. Like any of the things that I want to do, that I want to pursue, the higher version of me that I want to become. Like I want to become more because I want to give. I want to share all of that with her. You know what I mean? It's like when I'm feeling like defeated, when life is hard, the way that she loves me and the way that she pours into me, like she literally makes the weight that I carry as a man so much easier to bear. And she also helps me, kick into that second gear when I do need to step up or to be strong or to figure something out. Knowing that she's there, it makes me that much more energized to go and do it because I'm not doing it just for me. And what I've learned is that when you
Yeah.
care about somebody enough, you'll actually do more for them than you'll do for yourself. And that's a gift. And I've
That's a
learned
gift.
that,
Say that again. That is
yes,
so true.
when you deeply care for somebody and you really have that genuine purest form of love, you'll do way more for them than you'll do for yourself, because our human condition, we are more prone to give up on ourselves before we give up on the people we love, or before we give up on the person that we love. And I don't love nobody like I love my wife, and I'm just keeping it real.
Yep.
Like she's the person who I committed my life to, who you said before, like that covenant life, that covenant relationship. And that is, it's just, you can't put it in words. Like we've been through long distance. We've had years of struggling as parents. I almost went bankrupt one time. There was a period of months where my wife, she got injured doing, in fitness. And I had to help her put on her shoes and get dressed for months. And I wouldn't take any of it back. And I'm glad to serve her. I'm glad to be there. Just like she was there for me, like a period of time in our life some years ago where we almost went homeless. Like we went through all of these situations and we never turned on each other. We might cry together, hug each other, just love on each other through the suffering.
Yep.
But we've never thought that our marriage was hard in spite of life. And it's made it easier to bear. And the fact that we have each other, it's like that other battery pack that we have to where it's like you can't quit. When life is hard and this throwing them blows at you, left and right, having somebody in there who you cannot give up on, who
Mm,
you can't, turn away
mm,
from, like
mm.
somebody who literally just gives you that second gear to kick into to figure it out. That's who
Yes.
she's been for me. She's made my life significantly easier.
She is, man, she is your ride or die, your partner, your
Yes.
lover, your best friend. How you so let me tell you this. When you guys are talking to couples and you're working with couples, and let's say, like we said earlier, and you have couples that are let's not say that the marriage is, toxic or horrible. Let's say for the most part, they're healthier people,
Hmm.
but they don't have this type of foundation. They are
Hmm.
struggling, like earlier you were talking about. There's different areas in relationships that people struggle. Absolutely, right? That you can have
Hmm.
a strong area in a marriage, and then there not necessarily another area can be not as strong. I get that. For the listeners and people that are in marriages right now and they do find themselves kind of complacent, just kind
Hmm.
of just not really having that passion and that love for one another. They love each other, but they're not,
Right.
like we said earlier, pouring into each other. What is something that they can start doing immediately to make some shifts? What are things that you guys start telling people, in a marriage like that? Because they have love for each other, but they are kind of, what I'm talking about? They're just kind of
Hmm.
going opposite
Disconnected.
ways. Yep. Yeah, disconnected.
It starts with a conversation.
Oof.
Like it starts, by taking the time to get to know each other all over again.
Okay.
Because what happens is people get married and then, as time progresses, you get introduced with all of these new responsibilities. Maybe you get promoted, you get a new job, whatever the case may be. Like life starts to get more complex the longer you are together, or depending on when you meet. And sometimes people meet and their lives individually are already complex. And so you have to dial all of that stuff back. It's like, where are we right now as individuals? Because you might have married one version of that person and they may have become a completely new person and you missed it.
Yep.
So it's like, you can know somebody's love language, but I tell people all the time, it's like, bro, nobody has one singular love language. And whatever it is at one point, it's only like that for right now until it becomes something else because we grow, we evolve, we change. So what I tell them is sit down and get to know your spouse all over again. Dive into their world, be invested in it. Like take that time to get to know each other. What are your interests? What do you enjoy? How do you want to be loved? How can I love you better? Like
Mm,
all of these are the types of questions that you want to start asking each other. Like, where do you feel that I could be a better spouse to you, a better husband, a better wife? You
mm,
know, getting to know them so that way you can learn how to serve them the way that they need it in that moment. And that way you can create those opportunities to start over and to start getting involved. Like, for example, like my wife, she's, into hiking and into fitness and different things like that. When she was going through her first bodybuilding competition, I had no desire to do it personally at the time, but we were hearing all these horror stories about, when you go into bodybuilding, your sex drive goes down, and
Yes.
they're so committed, they're in all of this stuff or whatever. It can be hard on a relationship, and I was like, hard for y'all, not us, because when she needed to do cardio, I was right there. When she was trying to come up with her meals and she needed stuff, baby, what do you need so that way I can make this easier for you? And what I came to find out is me
Tell 'em.
showing up for her like that made her
Yes.
fall more in love with me because I was showing up for her in this hard
Amen.
thing that she was interested in. I got
Oh,
involved with her. And when you get involved in each other's life, it's because here's the truth. Most of us in a lot of ways don't feel like anybody cares about us. Really. Most of us feel like people only love us because of something we do for them. And it's unfortunate, but a lot of people, especially men, it's always like you only love me because of what I can provide for you,
oh,
or
wow.
because
That's
I'm
so
doing
true.
this, or you only love me because I'm able to do this, or all of these things. And it's
Yep.
unfortunate that we carry that. But when you can break that wall down by just wanting to serve somebody because you love them, because you care for them, because you're interested, you actually ask questions about the things that they're interested in, and you want to be involved, even if you're not into it. I had a I had a client who was just
Yeah,
like
tell
what you
me.
said. His wife, she was into like ballroom dancing and all of this stuff, and he had no interest in that stuff at all. And she would always invite him and want to spend that time with him and stuff like that. And I was telling you, I was like, my guy, you missing the point. It's not about you being good. It's about the fact that she wants to spend that time with you and she
Mm.
wants to invite you into her world. You not being good is probably a good thing because you'll probably do terrible at it and y'all can laugh at it. Like, take your ego out of the picture. It ain't even about you. Go in there and just joke around with it or something, but spend the time with her. That's the important thing. You don't even have to be all the way into it. Just know that it means something to them, and the fact that you're there already gives you those brownie points or takes you to that next level because they know that you're doing it because you care about them.
Yes.
That is
You
serving from a genuine
That's
place.
serving. You just hit it spot on. It's not necessarily like when we're talking about, like you said, doing certain things, even if you don't like it, you're missing the point. It is giving yourself an opportunity to get closer to your partner, to be with your partner, to be interested in things that they're interested, even if you're not interested in those things.
Yeah,
That to me is so valuable. And I wish people would really understand the value in that
yeah. Step
and
into their
how because
world.
come into that world because you're actually having that opportunity to get to know each other. And I totally agree with you. I think people need to loosen up a little bit. It's very serious. People,
Hmm.
they're not having that humor and that fun. And that here we go again. Here we go again. This is where the friendship comes. They're like, you seems like again, you get married and all of a sudden, you just you become the wife and he becomes the husband and you don't date
And it
each
gets
other.
boring.
It's boring. Who wants a boring marriage? And I think
Nobody.
that's where marriages get a bad rap. I
Hmm.
think that's it because it is boring.
Because they're trying to perform. They're trying to
That's it.
perform. And that's why I talk about like it's so important to be intentional about your becoming, who you're becoming individually and together and being a part of each other's journey. You don't want to have to perform in your marriage. You want to just be. You want to just be all of who you are and be able to love each other in that being and in that becoming more together.
And really again, we talk a lot about like women having that safety to have that vulnerability, to have the us that opportunity to like me, I feel like I have all these emotions, all
Mhm.
these layers, and I need that space to kind of just sound a little, every once in a while, and really be myself. And when I have that space, and especially with my husband, it actually, truly, from the bottom of my heart, it actually makes me absolutely feel closer to him It
I watch
makes
it
me
the same
want
way.
it makes me want to lean in instead of, we've of course us, we've had our waves in our marriage, but it makes me want to lean in instead of leaning out. It
Hmm.
really makes me want to be able to share that, to really bring out my silly side. I didn't really realize how silly I can be and how goofy I am.
Yeah.
And I have that opportunity, and that's so important, you guys. And so, okay, let's talk about this. So, one of the things that we just touched upon. So, when you are talking about first thing that you said when I asked you, you said communication.
Hmm.
Talk about communication with me for a second because we talked about friendship. You guys, friendship is truly the heart of the relationship.
Genuine friendship without an agenda.
Genuine, genuine friendship without an agenda. What about that communication? I think
I'll
people
say
don't
that,
understand what that means. I really
yeah,
don't. You hear that a lot.
they
Tone,
don't.
you hear that so much. Well, you guys got to communicate better. You got to communicate. And a lot of times people look at me like, what does that mean? What the hell they mean? Communicate. We are communicating.
Yeah. So most people don't know that the majority of communication is nonverbal.
Mm,
And the most important thing about communication, it has way less to do about what you're actually saying and how you're actually making the other person feel. Are you making them feel heard? Are you making them, are you understanding what they're actually saying? Are you having that active listening? Are you actually trying to understand what they're saying? And then going a step beyond that, if you don't understand, can you still care? Can you care about the fact that they feel something, that they have a belief that came from somewhere, and that they may not be trying to get the answer, or they may not be trying to get the problem fixed, but they want you to just understand and see where they're coming from. And again, even if you don't, can you just understand and care enough to know that it means something to them without trying to push your own opinion, or trying to relate, or trying to make yourself seem like you got all of the answers and things like that? Or
get
can you listen,
defensive. Get
get
defensive.
defensive, any of those things? So it's learning how to slow down rather than waiting to speak. And so that's something that, like, I most people don't even know this until we started talking about it. But like my wife and I, we've never had a problem communicating, but we started our podcast to learn how to communicate with each other better, and
Okay.
to have, like, to record it so that way we could actually see how we were communicating with each other. And it had nothing to do with nobody else. We just wanted to see how we were communicating with each other.
Really?
That's why we started it. And we recorded like over a dozen episodes before we posted one. We wanted it for us. Like, the proof is in the camera. You
Oh,
know what
let's
I'm
talk about
saying?
that for a second. Okay, okay. So one day you guys were like, I really, because you said you always kind of had really good communication for the most
Mhm.
part, but you're like, I really want to go deeper with you. I want to see, because it's so true. Because a lot of times I'll be talking and he'll be talking, and we're looking like, did I really say that? Or how did you say that? Or what did you say that?
Mhm.
And so I can only imagine when you guys put that camera up and you started, okay, you guys, there's a tip. Can you imagine people like, what? We have to record ourselves? Oh my goodness. What did you guys start learning?
I'll say this. You got to be careful
No,
with that, because you don't want to weaponize that at all.
no,
But there
no,
were
no.
a lot of times, where we learned a lot about each other and how we communicate, in areas where we found that we had to get better at. So it did expose some stuff for sure.
It did expose some stuff. So the main thing then when you guys were when we were talking about communication and what are the things that you learned, what are some of the things that you learned?
So for me, I realized that I had to slow down in my responses to my wife, and really learn how to, like, take about 3 to 5 seconds after I've heard what she said before I respond. Because I had to, again, taking those seconds, I would be like, okay, this is what I heard you say. And I repeat it back to her to make sure that I actually understand whatever it is that she was trying to express. And now that's typically just, when you're having those harder, heavier conversations, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so I would articulate it back to her, and then sometimes I would get it, sometimes I wouldn't. And then I would express, myself and let her know either what I'm thinking, or I would figure out if she's just trying to vent and she wants to get her feelings out, or if she's asking me to be able to solve the problem. And I could just ask those questions. And like, so rather than trying to fix it, my first thing is like, well, how does that make you feel? Or how can I better support you in whatever this thing is? I will ask questions to figure out what I need to do next for you. Am I just listening? Are you looking for me to solve something? Is there a corrective action or something like that I can take? Or do you just want to talk through whatever it is that you're feeling or whatever the case may be? So I learned how to slow down in my response. So
I
that
love
way
that.
I could, one, make sure that I'm responding in love, make sure that I understand what she's saying. I can understand if she's looking for a solution or if she's looking to vent and she just needs to get something out, or just to sit there and really process it and understand if I may not even need to reply with whatever my thoughts are, because sometimes he says stuff to me and I genuinely don't know how to respond. And I'd be like, baby, like, well, if you don't mind, like, give me a moment to think on that. I'm not actually sure. Because, sometimes our ego can take over and
Yep.
it feels like we have to give an answer. We
Mm-hmm.
have to
Mm-hmm.
respond, like we have to know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to not know or to take some
Yes.
time. Like, that's respectful. And what it taught me was just to slow down in our communication and just to really like hear where it's coming from. Like, okay, she bouncing all over the place. I could tell she's probably venting right now. But the thing about that is it sounds tactical, but it's not.
But
And
it's
let,
not.
let me tell you why I say that. It's me learning to read my wife and to see what she's doing. How is she talking? Can I read her body language? I'm paying such close attention to her because my only objective is to be what she needs in this moment and to get clarity so that way we can still be together, connected by the end of this conversation. Setting the goal. The goal is to have understanding, to show that we care, to keep love there, and to be able to grow through whatever this conversation is, to have understanding and to know what to do next. If anything could come up to where it's a divide, then it stops. Like, okay, I'm not understanding. Just like maybe we just got two different points because we disagree for sure,
Of course. Yeah.
but we know how to disagree in love. I'm like, I don't think I feel that way, or or you, I think a little bit differently about that, or and we can be okay with that. The moment we realizing that we just genuinely disagree, we are okay just leaving it right there. Unless it's a decision like or something where like we have to make a decision. If we're not on the same page, then that decision either don't get made or we just there until we're on the same page together. But the priority is to make sure that we remain on each other's team. It's not about being right. It's about staying together. I would much rather make the wrong decision and still be with my wife on the same team than make the right decision and we end up divided.
Yes.
That's a personal
Yes.
preference.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
if I make the right decision, but my wife feels unheard, defeated, or not heard, then who wins in this situation? We both lose.
You totally both lose.
We both
Absolutely.
lose.
Yep. And you know what? You said something that is gold. Well, actually, you've been saying a lot of gold today, but let me just take you back for a second. Uh, wow. When I asked you about, oof, okay, seriously, 2 times? Got goosies again. Look at them coming up 2 times. I don't think I've ever had a 2-time goosey conversation. So here we
Uh-oh.
go. Here we go. When I asked you about communication, and one of the first things that you said, what communication is listening.
Hmm.
Communication is truly slowing down exactly what you said and listening with your listening ears. I took this, I just want to say, so this is so powerful. I went to this conference, this big,
Hmm.
expensive, no, you're going to trip on this one. I can't remember the guy's name. I went to this huge conference and it was all about you know, relationships and things and all these things, other things. And so they brought this communication specialist on. So we were like, okay, we're going to learn to, we were prepared. Like I had my little notes. I was like, okay, I'm going to learn how to communicate correct. No, I'm not kidding you. I paid a lot of money for this. This is how I paid a lot of money for this. Let me tell you what I
Locked
got out of this
in.
company. I was like, okay, here we go. He's going to tell me whew, how to communicate in a relationship with my man. And this is it. I'm winning. Okay, here we go. So he says, okay, everyone, we're going to learn today how to communicate. This is very important. So I need everyone to listen. I need everyone to do this. He said, go ahead, I'm not kidding you. Take your top lip, close it to your bottom lip, and listen. And I'm like, is he serious right now? Like, is this really true? And he said, the problem is people don't listen. They're not interested in really getting to know where that person's coming from because they're
Hmm.
so quick on exactly what you just said. You guys, he just said it. He just said it. You again, drop the mic. You just said it. Communication is really making sure that you are understanding and listening to the needs and what is happening with your partner and not being so quick to shut them down, not being so quick to just assume and having that opportunity to ask questions that can help you guys not get the other person all crazy. Like what are you talking about? Ask questions that genuinely because you actually care. Do you know how many marriages can like switch quickly with that tool?
Can I add to that?
Yes,
Because
please.
listening is a superpower. It's a skill. And one of the things inside of that, just because I know communication is one of those things that, you if you're talking to anybody about marriage, you're gonna always come up on communication. But when you learn to really listen, the first thing you have to do is silence your ego. You have to silence your ego
Mm,
because unfortunately what we will tend to do is I'm hearing something from my spouse or the person that I'm talking to. And now we have to make sense of it. So we start looking for our own life experiences. We start looking for the meanings that we've already associated with whatever it is that we're hearing. We start assigning all of these meanings to words and things like that. And we start creating all of these mental pictures or whatever to respond with what we think we heard based off of what we feel about our thoughts, about our experiences in the context of what they say, and we miss it. And that is it always goes wrong because you end up taking your opportunity to listen and you start thinking about yourself, trying to make sense of it. And that is never a good approach to take because when you're listening to serve and to care and to understand, what you can do is it's like, okay, you said you don't feel supported. Pause. What does support mean to you?
oh,
I don't
oh.
feel respected. What does respect mean in action? How do you define that word? Because we can be having two totally different conversations because you don't understand that a person might be using a word that you have a different meaning for in comparison to what they define it as. And you automatic, even though you're listening, your conversations are still polar opposite. So it's like asking follow up questions to make sure that you can break down what they're saying based off of what they mean, what they feel, what they're trying to express, what they want to share with you, and stop thinking about yourself. And that is a skill that you have to learn along with listening when you deeply care about somebody and you want to show up for them, regardless of where the emotions are in the conversation. So you can listen, but if you're only listening to find a way to respond and to clap back and to throw your logic out there or to show how smart you are or all of this or how they thinking wrong and stuff like that, then you're missing the mark. You're missing the mark.
Okay, this is it. I'm done. this is the third goosey. I'm done. You win the award for the three goosies of the podcast for Miss Charlene. I am not kidding you.
Oh, I
For
appreciate you.
real. No, I appreciate you. Wow. Wow. That was so powerful. When you started, that I literally want you guys seriously rewind this part of the podcast and write those things down that he just said with the questions. That is going again to help so many people. When they think about communication, when they think about listening, to ask questions. The way that you just said it, it's not about, if someone's feeling disrespected. People have, it's so good. People have different meanings, what that means to them. And so
Mm-hmm.
often we are reflecting back based on what we feel respect is or not respect. But when you slow it down, and again, you guys, honestly, there's no room for the ego in a relationship.
It's
Let it go.
not.
Let it go.
It's not.
It will actually destroy you. It will destroy you. You will end up divorced. I'm just telling you right now.
100%.
It's bad. And if you are slowing it down and allowing that ego to say bye-bye and saying, okay, babe, tell me more about that. Get interested. Get curious. That's what I'm hearing from you today. Get curious. Tell me a little more about that. What does respect mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
And
okay.
what that does in that is sometimes you can help your spouse so much by asking
Mm-hmm.
more questions because they might even discover that it might be a flaw in their own thinking. They
Yes.
might discover that they haven't thought through whatever it is that they're asking you about or that they're talking about. Like, but it shows that you're looking to understand rather than to judge and to correct them, trying to fix stuff or whatever. You're allowing them to find the way there. They might even solve their own problem. But it also shows that you're present, that you care, and that you're looking to actually get to that place of understanding with them rather than just trying to prove who you are as a person, your quality, and how smart you are.
Oh, please. Our time. What happened? Our time going so fast. And I do say this before, but I'm not even kidding you. Um, we are going to do a part two. And I know you have a busy schedule and you can come back and you can even bring your wife for part two if you want. But we are going to do a part two because what you are sharing today and how you are sharing it, I'm actually getting choked up. I'm getting emotional here because I want more people to hear this. I want more people to realize that they can apply these things into their relationship. You guys, love is so important. Good relationships are so important. And if you're in a relationship right now and you don't have this type of friendship and you don't have this type of communication, you can change it. You can actually change it. You can actually get exactly what he's talking about. So I want you to come back to this podcast, please. No, I'm begging you. And
Absolutely.
and let's go deeper on this. Let's have more of these conversations because this is takeaways for people to apply into their lives. I believe with all my heart, relationships are the most important thing. We're not meant to be alone. We're not meant to, my saying is, this isn't really my saying. We're not meant to be on an island by ourselves. We're here to connect. We're here to go deep. We're here to love. We're here to have fun with one another. And
Absolutely.
when you do that, you said it earlier on in our podcast, it's so valuable. It makes your life so much more richer. It makes your life so much more fulfilling. Oh, how do we get
Absolutely.
in your world? Please, how do we get in your world right now? Right now. What do you have for us?
Well, if you
How do
want to
we?
find me personally, I'm very active on, Instagram at Trone So Driven. That is Trone So Driven. That's where I am. And then also my wife and I, we have a podcast called One Dope Couple Podcast. So you can find us on Instagram at One Dope Couple or on YouTube at One Dope Couple or on Apple and Spotify, also at One Dope Couple. So, but me personally, I'm Trone So Driven on Instagram, and that's where I'm sharing, a large portion of, my knowledge, my insights, my experiences, and things that have helped me most, with the goal of just being able to give back some of the lessons that life has taught me and my marriage has taught me in the hopes that, it helps others.
Oh, you are helping others. I'm telling you right now, you absolutely are helping others. And I know that you have, and I want to put it in the show notes. When I was looking on your Instagram page, you have something that they can download, don't you? You have
Yeah,
some.
it's the marriage ain't hard free. I mean, it's the free marriage ain't hard cheat sheet.
Oh, there you go. What is that about? Tell the listeners so they can go ahead and grab that.
So the reason we believe, marriage isn't hard is just because a lot of people lack intentionality. So inside of the cheat sheet itself, it has I think it's like five different things in there to help people be more intentional in their relationship. And it also has a summary of our beliefs, behind why marriage isn't hard. And, a couple of action steps that you can take and that you can implement in your marriage to experience what it means to be intentional in your marriage. So that way you can get away from that belief, that marriage is hard. So to help with communication, it'll give you some ideas, being able to spend quality time together. It'll break some limiting beliefs and give you some new ones. And, just a little free thing that we like to give out just to be able to help establish a little foundation. That's all.
Okay, there you go. Yes, seriously,
It's
that's a tool
completely
that you
free.
can use. Yes, it's a tool that you can use, and it's marriage isn't hard.
It's marriage ain't hard cheat sheet.
Marriage ain't hard cheat sheet, and we're going to leave that in the show notes. So you can easily grab that. You're going to follow him. He's coming back, so don't worry, he's coming back. Thank you. Thank you for this beautiful, heartful, such an inspiring, like you lit me up. Such an inspiring conversation about marriage and the beauty of marriage and the awesomeness of marriage. Thank you. Seriously, thank you from the
I'm glad to be
bottom
here.
of my heart.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And cheers to great love. Let's talk about the tip of the week, which is struggle love isn't poetic and it's not real. Ladies, love isn't that hard when it's with the right person. When it's the right person for you, it just falls in place. It feels like home. He does things for you to make you happy. You don't second guess where you stand. You don't have to cry and fight or be so frustrated about being with that person. It just moves forward naturally. And no man is worth giving up on love. It doesn't matter how hard it's felt for you in the past or how much you've gotten hurt. As a matter of fact, that hurt and disappointment is actually preparing you for the perfect partner, your soulmate, a person that is in true alignment with you. Allow that to prepare you to have your love story. And the best thing that you can do is be happy, move forward, and attract the right man for you. And to attract that kind of love, healthy, true love, you have to heal whatever needs healing and completely fall in love with you. First, fall in love with who you are because you've got to do that for yourself. And until then, you will always see an illusion of you. You'll see less than enough version of you, the broken version, the version of you who's too scared and too afraid to receive the love that is standing right in front of you. So before you start dating, before you start looking for love, look within, heal within. And it's okay to ask an expert to help you. Seriously, to help you get there faster. That's called wisdom. Take the time to heal your love blocks. You will be in awe of what changes once you do that for yourself. If you would like to work one-on-one with me, we are opening up a few spots for our one-on-one work. Look in the link in the show notes to book a private session with me. That's a wrap. Wow. I hoped you loved that conversation as much as I did. I was so touched to hear how much John loves and respects his wife and how they truly have an incredible marriage and friendship. And the beautiful part is that kind of love is available for all of us. If you're loving this podcast and these incredible conversations, please hit the subscribe button and leave a 5-star review. Don't miss an episode because each week I'll be bringing on guests and experts who will share their knowledge about love, dating, and relationships so you can apply it into your own life. I'll see you next week. And until then, cheers to great love.